Picture this. You're driving down a quiet street in 1965, radio playing softly, when suddenly the music cuts to static. The DJ's voice comes on, apologetic, explaining that the song you were just hearing has been pulled from rotation. Today, we're going back in time to uncover 10 most controversial band songs of the 1960s. Number 10. Gloria, by Them.
You know it's comes around here. I did the body.
When Van Morrison and his Belfast band, Them released their version of Gloria in 1965, radio programmers across America reached for their red pens. The song itself was actually written by Van Morrison, though many stations missed this detail in their rush to ban it. What caught their attention were the suggestive lyrics that seemed to describe a late-night encounter with a woman named Gloria. Radio stations from coast to coast pulled the song, claiming it was too sexually explicit for broadcast. The irony wasn't lost on many observers. Here was a song about knocking on someone's door at midnight, yet it was treated as if it were corrupting the nation's youth. Some stations tried playing instrumental versions, while others simply refused to acknowledge the song existed.
She come around to just about midnight.
Despite the radio ban, Gloria became a garage rock anthem, passed from band to band like a secret code. Young musicians across America learned those distinctive three chords, and the song became a rite of passage for countless garage bands. The ban, rather than killing the song, turned it into underground currency. Record stores couldn't keep copies on the shelves, and jukeboxes that dared to stock it found themselves constantly feeding quarters to young customers eager to hear what the radio wouldn't play. The controversy followed the song across the Atlantic too. British radio was more lenient, but even there, some stations relegated it to late-night hours only. Van Morrison himself seemed bemused by the fuss, later noting that people read far more into the lyrics than he had ever intended. Number 9. The Eve of Destruction, by Barry McGuire. In the summer of 1965, as American involvement in Vietnam was escalating, a former member of the New Christy Minstrels stepped up to a microphone and delivered one of the most politically charged songs of the decade. Barry McGuire's The Eve of Destruction, written by P.F. Sloan, was a 4-minute indictment of American foreign policy, social inequality, and what the songwriter saw as the hypocrisy of the times. Radio stations across the Bible Belt and conservative markets banned the song immediately. Station managers declared it unpatriotic, anti-American, and dangerous to public morale. Some stations that initially played the song faced boycotts from local businesses and pressure from community leaders to remove it from rotation. The song referenced everything from the civil rights movement to nuclear weapons, painting a picture of a world teetering on the brink of disaster. At a time when many Americans still believed in the righteousness of their government's actions, this kind of questioning felt revolutionary and threatening. Television appearances became battlegrounds. When McGuire performed the song on various shows, producers received thousands of complaints. Some shows pre-taped performances and edited out controversial verses. Others simply canceled bookings altogether. The ban created a fascinating cultural divide. In college towns and liberal markets, the song climbed the charts and became an anthem for the growing anti-war movement. Meanwhile, in conservative areas, owning a copy of the record could mark you as a troublemaker. Record store owners reported customers buying the single in secret, wrapping it in brown paper as if it were contraband. Number 8. Louie, Louie, by the Kingsmen. Perhaps no song in the history of American popular music has been more misunderstood than the Kingsmen's 1963 version of Louie, Louie. Written by Richard Berry in 1955 as an innocent calypso-style song about a sailor longing to return to his love in Jamaica, it became the subject of a 2-year FBI investigation and was banned by radio stations across the country. The problem wasn't the lyrics themselves, but rather how lead singer Jack Ely delivered them. Recording in a makeshift studio with poor acoustics, Ely had to strain his voice to be heard over the instrumental track. His garbled pronunciation of perfectly innocent words convinced listeners that he was singing something far more scandalous. Radio stations pulled the song based on rumors and speculation. Program directors who couldn't quite make out what Ely was singing decided it was better to be safe than sorry. The governor of Indiana banned the song from state radio stations. The FBI opened an official investigation, analyzing the recording at different speeds to determine if obscenities were hidden in the mix. High school students across America suddenly found themselves in possession of what adults considered dangerous contraband. The song became a secret handshake among teenagers, a way to rebel against authority simply by owning a 45 RPM record. Dance halls banned it, school officials confiscated copies, parents held emergency meetings to discuss the corrupting influence of rock and roll.
Okay, let's give it to him right now.
The investigation concluded that the lyrics were unintelligible at any speed, but completely innocent. The FBI file on Louie grew to over 160 pages. Meanwhile, the Kingsmen watched their song become one of the most famous band records in history, all because of a misunderstanding and some poor studio acoustics. Number 7. I Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. When the Rolling Stones released Satisfaction in 1965, they created more than just a rock and roll classic. They created a moral panic. Mick Jagger's lyrics about sexual frustration and consumer dissatisfaction hit American radio like a lightning bolt, and the response was immediate and severe. Conservative radio stations banned the song outright, declaring it too sexually suggestive for broadcast. The phrase about trying to make some girl was enough to send program directors reaching for their delete buttons. Ed Sullivan, who had previously showcased the Rolling Stones on his show, demanded they change the lyrics if they wanted to appear again. Religious leaders condemned the song as an example of moral decay in popular music. Youth ministers used it as an example of how rock and roll was corrupting American teenagers. Some communities organized record-burning events, with Satisfaction often serving as kindling. The band found themselves in the curious position of having to defend what they considered a fairly straightforward rock song. Mick Jagger appeared on television talk shows, attempting to explain that the song was about the frustrations of modern life, not just sexual desire. The explanations fell on deaf ears in many quarters. Despite the bans, or perhaps because of them, Satisfaction became the Rolling Stones' first #1 hit in America. Young people bought the record in droves, often having to ask for it specifically since many stores kept it behind the counter. The controversy only added to the Rolling Stones' reputation as the bad boys of rock and roll, an image they would carry throughout their career. Number 6. Born to be Wild by Steppenwolf.
Head out on the highway, looking for adventure.
Steppenwolf's 1968 anthem, Born to be Wild, arrived at a time when the counterculture movement was reaching its peak, and the song's celebration of motorcycle culture and rebellion struck fear into the hearts of conservative America. Radio stations across the country banned the song, not just for its lyrics, but for what they represented: a rejection of traditional values and an embrace of a dangerous lifestyle. The song became synonymous with the outlaw biker culture that was growing across America. Motorcycle clubs adopted it as an unofficial anthem, and its association with groups like the Hells Angels made radio programmers nervous. Some stations refused to play it during daytime hours, relegating it to late-night programming when younger listeners were presumably asleep.
Born to be wild.
Police departments in several cities reported that the song was frequently played at gatherings that ended in violence or arrests. Whether the song caused the trouble or simply provided a soundtrack to it became irrelevant to many broadcasters. The mere association was enough to keep it off the airwaves.
We can climb so high, I never wanna die.
The controversy intensified when the song was featured prominently in the 1969 film Easy Rider. The movie's portrayal of drug use, violence, and rejection of mainstream society made the song even more problematic for many radio stations. Some markets banned it entirely after the film's release.
Looking for adventure, and whatever comes.
Youth culture, however, embraced the song precisely because it had been banned. Record sales soared despite limited radio play. The song became a symbol of rebellion against authority, and owning a copy was seen as a statement of independence from adult supervision and societal expectations.
And whatever comes our way. Yeah,
Number 5. 96 Tears by Question Mark and the Mysterians.
But one heart to be crying.
The garage rock classic, 96 Tears, by the enigmatic Question Mark and the Mysterians faced widespread radio bans in 1966. Not for explicit lyrics, but for its raw, unpolished sound and the mysterious nature of the band itself. Radio programmers, accustomed to the polished production of major label releases, found the song's primitive recording quality and emotional intensity too intense for mainstream audiences.
And when the sun comes up, I'll be on top. You be right down there.
The band's refusal to reveal their real names, or appear without sunglasses, created an air of menace that made conservative radio stations uncomfortable. In an era when clean-cut appearances were expected, and the Mysterians represented something dark and unknown. Their Hispanic background also made them targets of discrimination in many markets, though this was rarely stated explicitly.
Wondering how I'm gonna get you, but I know now.
Several radio stations banned the song after receiving complaints from listeners who found the emotional intensity disturbing. The raw vocals and primitive organ sound created an atmosphere that many found unsettling. Some described the song as too ethnic or too different for their formats. Thinly veiled references to racial bias.
I'll just cry. I'll just cry.
The ban extended beyond radio to television. The band was uninvited from several variety shows after producers decided their appearance was too threatening. Their refusal to conform to entertainment industry standards made them persona non grata in many venues.
You're gonna cry 96 tears.
Despite the radio blackout, 96 Tears became a massive hit through word of mouth and jukebox play. The song's success without traditional radio support proved that the music industry was changing, and that audiences were hungry for something more authentic than the sanitized pop music that dominated the airwaves.
You're gonna cry now. You're gonna cry.
Number 4. White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane. Jefferson Airplane's 1967 psychedelic masterpiece, White Rabbit, was banned by radio stations across America for its obvious references to drug use and its dark interpretation of Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. Grace Slick's haunting vocals and the song's explicit references to pills that make you larger or smaller were too much for broadcasters already nervous about the growing influence of psychedelic culture.
And if you go chasing rabbits.
The song arrived at the height of the Summer of Love, but radio programmers saw nothing loving about its message. The references to Alice taking pills and the White Rabbit's demands created what many saw as a blueprint for drug experimentation. Radio stations banned it not just for its content, but for fear that playing it would encourage drug use among their listeners. Government officials took notice as well. The Federal Communications Commission received numerous complaints about radio stations that did play the song. Some congressmen referenced it in speeches about the dangers of rock music and its influence on American youth. The song became a symbol of everything adults feared about the counterculture movement.
Has given you the call.
Religious leaders denounced the song as satanic, pointing to its dark imagery and rejection of conventional morality. Some communities organized protests outside radio stations that continued to play it. Record stores in conservative areas reported pressure from local authorities to remove it from their inventory. The ban only increased the song's mystique among young people. It became an underground hit, passed from person to person, like a secret. College radio stations that played it found their signals jammed or their licenses threatened. The controversy surrounding White Rabbit helped establish Jefferson Airplane as one of the leading voices of the psychedelic movement. Number 3. For What It's Worth, by Buffalo Springfield.
There's something happening here.
Buffalo Springfield's gentle protest song, For What It's Worth, released in early 1967, was banned by numerous radio stations, despite its seemingly calm and reflective tone. Written by Stephen Stills in response to the Sunset Strip riots in Los Angeles, the song's references to paranoia, battle lines, and young people speaking their minds made nervous radio programmers uncomfortable.
Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
The song's timing couldn't have been more sensitive. Released as anti-war protests were intensifying and civil rights demonstrations were becoming more frequent, radio stations feared that playing the song would encourage political activism among their listeners. Some stations received direct pressure from local authorities to avoid playing music that might inspire protests or demonstrations.
1,000 people in the street.
Conservative radio markets banned the song entirely, viewing it as anti-establishment propaganda. The references to young people carrying signs and the warning about paranoia struck deep made many adults uncomfortable. In an era when questioning authority was seen as unpatriotic, the song's message of youth empowerment was revolutionary.
It's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going.
Military bases banned the song from their radio stations, fearing it would undermine morale among troops preparing for or returning from Vietnam. Some disc jockeys who played the song found themselves reassigned or fired. The controversy was particularly intense in areas with large military populations.
Everybody look what's going down.
Despite radio resistance, For What It's Worth became one of the defining songs of the protest movement. Its gentle melody and thoughtful lyrics made it palatable to many who might have rejected more aggressive protest songs. The ban, rather than silencing the song's message, gave it additional credibility among young people looking for music that reflected their growing disillusionment with authority.
We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Number 2. Get Together, by the Youngbloods.
Love is but a song we sing.
The Youngbloods' 1967 version of Get Together faced radio bans across conservative America for its message of peace, love, and unity, at a time when the country was deeply divided over Vietnam and civil rights. Originally written by Chet Powers, the song's call for people to come together and love one another was seen by many radio stations as naive at best and dangerous at worst.
Everybody get together, try to love one another right.
The song's association with the hippie movement made it particularly controversial. Radio programmers feared that playing it would encourage young people to join the counterculture movement and reject traditional American values. The song's message of universal love and peace was interpreted by many as anti-war propaganda, disguised as a love song.
Some may come and some may go.
Some radio stations banned the song after receiving complaints from listeners who felt it was promoting communal living and free love. The references to holding and loving one another were seen as encouragement for the kind of lifestyle that conservative America found threatening. Religious leaders condemned it as promoting sexual promiscuity and rejection of Christian values.
Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get.
Military recruitment centers reported that the song was being played at anti-war demonstrations, leading to additional pressure on radio stations to avoid it. Some stations that continued to play the song found their advertising revenue threatened as local businesses pulled their support in response to community pressure.
Get together, try to love one another right now.
The irony of banning a song about peace and understanding wasn't lost on many observers, but it didn't stop the censorship. Get Together became an underground anthem for the peace movement, played at protest gatherings and passed from person to person on homemade recordings when radio wouldn't touch it. Number 1. Sky Pilot by The Animals.
Make them feel wanted, he's a good holy man.
Eric Burdon and The Animals' 1968 epic Sky Pilot topped our list as the most controversial banned song of the 1960s. This 8-minute anti-war masterpiece was banned not just for its length, which made it unsuitable for radio play, but for its devastating critique of military chaplains and the moral contradictions of blessed warfare.
He feels good, with God you're never alone. He feels...
The song's portrayal of a military chaplain blessing young soldiers before they march off to die was seen as blasphemous by religious leaders and unpatriotic by military supporters. Radio stations across America refused to play it, citing its anti-war message and its criticism of religious authority. Some stations that initially played edited versions were forced to remove it entirely after receiving threats from listeners. The song's most controversial moment came with its realistic sound effects of battle and its depiction of soldiers dying while calling out for their mothers. This graphic portrayal of war's reality was too much for radio programmers who preferred their protest songs more abstract. The combination of anti-war sentiment and religious criticism made Sky Pilot a perfect storm of controversy.
He mumbles a prayer, and it ends with a smile.
Television appearances became impossible. Variety shows that had previously welcomed The Animals refused to book them after the song's release. Ed Sullivan, who had featured many British invasion bands, declared that The Animals were no longer welcome on his program. The ban extended to some concert venues, particularly those near military bases.
In the morning they return with tears in their eyes.
Despite being shut out of mainstream media, Sky Pilot became a powerful underground anthem for the anti-war movement. The song was played at peace rallies and protest gatherings, passed from hand to hand on bootleg recordings. Its message resonated with a generation of young people who were questioning not just the war, but the institutions that supported it.
You'll never reach the sky.
These 10 songs represent more than just controversial music. They're snapshots of a decade in turmoil, when artists dared to challenge the status quo and society pushed back with censorship and bans. Each song tells the story of a moment when music became more than entertainment. It became a battleground for competing visions of America. Looking back now, it's remarkable how many of these dangerous songs have become classics, played freely on oldie stations and celebrated as important cultural artifacts. The controversies that once surrounded them seem almost quaint in comparison to today's debates about music content. Yet at the time, these songs represented real challenges to authority, genuine threats to the established order. The artists who recorded these songs paid a price for their courage. Many faced radio blacklists, canceled television appearances, and lost record deals. But they also created a legacy that continues to inspire musicians today. They proved that music could be more than just entertainment. It could be a force for social change and a voice for the voiceless. The 1960s taught us that banning a song often does more to promote its message than playing it ever could. Each of these records gained power from its prohibition, becoming a symbol of rebellion against censorship and a rallying cry for free expression. They remind us that the most dangerous thing to those in power isn't violence or revolution. It's a simple song that tells the truth. If you enjoyed this journey through the banned songs of the 1960s, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories from music history. What other decades would you like us to explore? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the songs that shaped our world.